Sunday Live is here with the Average Joe Sports Show. Bill Doleman, Gary Sharp, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. We'll check in with Husker Wrestling head coach Mark Manning. Round 11 or so, we'll get our starting five shout-outs going. Always like and subscribe to the Average Joe Sports Show 7 days a week for you. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Can catch the show always that way. Also on Twitter, AJ Sports Radio, Spotify, iTunes. Fellas, how's the weekend?
Well, I wasn't umpiring, so I think mine might have been better than Elijah's, so that's good. And I didn't go to Haymarket Park to watch the balls fly out of the yard yesterday afternoon. So all in all, for me, kind of a win.
All right. Sharpie, record time?
It was good. It was a 20-0 softball game. There were 4 home runs. Yes, so yesterday was the day of home runs. But let's hear about Elijah's day umpiring.
Yeah, cold, rainy. Every single time the ball hit the ground, you got to sub it out for a new non-wet baseball. 14-4, 2.5 hours. I was getting smoked behind the plate. I think like 5 or 6 different times. Good Lord, my knee is swollen up like a freaking orange. That was tough. But hey, I gotta go to pro bull riding last night. Got a spot.
I was gonna say, were you? Yeah, great tweet at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel, at Gary Sharp 1620, at Bill Doleman. Your name can go below the Bill Doleman name tag at Schmidt _radio for me. You went bull riding last night.
I didn't go bull riding. I went to bull riding. I didn't go riding any bull.
No, but my question is were you hunkered down like inside the timeout cage? Your view is obscenely close, or your camera skills continue to be amazing.
No, I've heard some people had to pay a lot of money for those tickets. They are it's a ring.
Not Elijah.
If you know a guy, I know a guy.
Yeah. The death chair, huh?
So no, it's like this little ring they have inside down in the dirt in there, and I knew a guy. They got me in, and I got to sit like on the dirt of the bull riding ring, and the bulls were running around. It was crazy.
That is awesome.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, 3 beers deep doing that. Yeah, I think I peaked.
A couple of painkillers after the afternoon.
or during. I watched hoops and had a few John Dailies in preparation for Augusta in a week from today. So that's what I did. It was pretty mundane. But
hey, really, real quick, have you cleared it with the folks at Augusta that you'll be able to set up a card table with a Average Joe or KFOR banner to do the show like from, I don't know, the 7th fairway?
You know, I have.
For sure, they're fine with that.
Neglected to do that. I was just going to roll in. I'm kidding, of course. On Sunday and Monday for us with a card table, a backpack, and then ways to broadcast
Marty
without paying rights fees, and just see how that would go. I assume it'd be like, not stopping for a traffic stop. Might be one of those ordeals. So
Scotty Scheffler reference.
Might have been. But my one phone call, if I do get it, would be to you guys.
Why, thank you.
Schmidt joins us from the Georgia State Penitentiary. On the Sunday Live Average Joe Sports Show.
I've made it through 3 seasons of Mayor of Kingstown, so I've got some pointers wrong. Guys, we'll get into some spring football. We'll dive into some Husker baseball and softball. Final Four doorstep today, Michigan State, Auburn. Some good ball games last night. And, of course, Husker Wrestling, the amazing season and, quite honestly, tenure Mark Manning has had. So, Coach Manning, again, probably about 20 minutes or so away. Starting 5 shout-outs. Chris checking in. Appreciate it. So Chris, all the way from Tennessee, says, I have dreams of seeing the 52 defense with Winery, Judy, Keota, Van Pop, and Lenhart with Shavers and McCullough. Yes, the Pat Tyrants, Mike Petco, Stan Mills, Mike Kroll,
Mike Anderson.
Mike Anderson, right?
Pride of Grand Island.
You had Perella hunkering down in the middle. You had Trev Alberts in that 52 before they flipped it.
Guys, you got to go back. You get Mike Knox.
My dad's got a picture with Mike Knox in 84 where they were long lost separated twins, and both of them may have had a few, and they're both cross-eyed in this picture. I'll have to bring it out for reference someday. But Chris, we'll see about the 52. I'm all good with the 52 if there's speed on the field. It sounds like there's speed on the field. I do not want a Miami running back isolated on a Nebraska linebacker ever again in coverage. That's my fear with the old 52. Larry checks in. Uncle Larry, good to have you. Brian Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty, is here. Says, will the weather be enough to cool the Beaver Bats, and will home run derby continue today? I don't know, Mr. Snitley. Good question. Charles, a better question. Check the Oregon State Bats.
Did you guys see the Yankees bats yesterday?
Yeah.
Yes.
They have those or what?
I don't know, but way to go to MIT for your research and development, Costanza. Corn Raider is in. Good for you. Otherwise, Corn Raider, I love it. It says almost walking boot season, otherwise known as golf season for those of us who pull our feet, who don't pull our feet into the court when passing immovable objects. Thank you, Corn Raider. Yes, I've learned my lesson. I will keep my feet in the cart the upcoming week. Captain is here. Good to have you, bud. Gobi checking in as well. Arlo here. Terry, Gangsta Hoopa. All right, Terry, good for you, dude. Andrew here. Rocco, the other Rocco, checking in on a Sunday. Dr. Octagon is here. Walter, south of Philly, in. Good to have you, dude. Game Dog checking in. Good to have you, Game Dog. Justice. All right. We've got Justice Rhodey sighting. Nice.
Not on the clock.
I know he's not, but doing a little extra credit. So
Hey, he needs it.
all right, guys, let's dive in and start off with a little football. And one of the things talked about this week, we heard from Dana Holgerson. We'll hear from Coach Butler earlier this week. And the topic of tempo, right? And I loved hearing Dana talk about being able to do things that fits time and situation, not only third down, but red zone, but the temptation, right? With this receiving core, with this quarterback, to just go 4 or 5 wide and sling it around. But really the years of coaching and realization of being able to and wanting to run the football, to be physical, that's what Matt Rule wants. That's what you need to have on defense is to be able to stop the run. But offensively, Nebraska hopes to in this first full year of Dana to be able to be a lot of things, Sharpie, on offense. That's good on the ground. That's attention to detail with what you can do on the offensive line, that assessment that's going on this spring. But then offensively, in a 2-minute situation, be able to go take advantage and win some ball games. Why do you think Nebraska had problems? They had opportunity as well. You're not gonna go John Elway all the time and put a 2-minute drill together. But you need to do it some of the time or most of the time. And that's a jump situation that Nebraska wants to make here in year 3.
Yeah, we all know, we could recite like the back of our hand what the close loss record is. I think they have to find a way for guys to get comfortable when they're trailing and it's late in the game, or be comfortable when they're leading late in the game, which is also, sometimes you have a lead and you don't know how to hold on to it. So I think that's a big thing. I actually don't think. I think the language and the plays will be cut down, but I don't think the offense is going to look much different.
Yeah.
I think Satterfield probably in his world was a very good schemer. I think Holgerson is a good schemer who knows what plays to call. And we've seen that. I used to tell people all the time, I thought Scott was a brilliant play designer, and he could scheme up plays. And then they just, you wouldn't see them on Saturday. Like then the knack of, okay, when you get off your scripted plays, what do you call? And we saw numerous times in the offensive side back in that era how it hurt them. I think you have a more, definitely a veteran play caller, which will help out a lot. Plus, I look at it this way. Look at a play sheet that Dana Holgerson is holding compared to a play sheet in the past where, it looks like a Waffle House menu. So they may not run very many plays, but the variation off those plays could be numerous. And I actually think in this offense, it'll help guys. Less thinking, more doing.
Mhm.
See, I was thinking more Garden Cafe with an 8-point font and sans serifs, trying to read.
Good reference. You want a cinnamon roll, don't you?
God, that place on 70th was a banger.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
As opposed to watching, Dana Holgerson and his Mike Leach influence, where you've got like the little 3x5 waitress at the tavern just flipping it over and asking if you want, Sprite or 7-Up, something like that. I think efficiency is probably the word of the day when it comes to what the play calling is going to be. Because think about when Holgerson came in late in the season, he is looking through that menu going, what the hell is on here? And you got to try to figure it out and make your order in 40 seconds. Pare it down a little bit and having a better understanding of what it is, you would think the plays will get in much quicker. And I think there was a time last year where, they were talking about Nebraska trying to snap the ball with, more than 15 seconds to go on the play clock, that they wanted that. But that kind of went away, and it slowed down getting the plays in and getting them called, getting the right personnel package in. You would hope that because of the head start that Holgerson talked about that he had coming into November and working those 2 or 3 months all by himself in the bowels of Memorial Stadium, the play calling will be more efficient, and you will see them in and lined up with 15 seconds to go. And if you got to make an audible, you can make an audible and not have to go through this entire cyclopedia of what the right play is going to be in the right personnel set. So I think that's just another example of why Nebraska is ahead of the game with Holgerson being hired when he was.
And one thing to note here with Holgerson and his offense is his play sheet's tiny, but it kind of, and it's something we talked about yesterday on the show, it kind of reminds you of some of those teams in the Big Ten, your Michigans, your Iowas, Minnesotas, Wisconsin of old, like the teams that will run a couple of plays just out of a whole bunch of different formations, whole bunch of different looks. They'll give the defense some different eye candy pre-snap. And then at the end of the day, it's an Iowa stretch play. It's a Minnesota stretch play. It's Wisconsin running power and counter. Like they run the same thing from different sets. And I think that's what Holgerson's going to bring to the offense. Like, yeah, different formation. He has some different personnel packages on the field, but he's still running a mesh concept. Like that's what it's going to be for. And I think that's going to make things easier for Dylan. Game Dog chimes in here to say there's wide open wide receivers, but Dylan couldn't find them last year. It's easier whenever you're running 5 to 10 different general passing concepts throughout a game than 40 different passing concepts throughout a game. For him to be able to make the right reads and understand, hey, we're going to set you up pre-snap. You're reading this one guy. If he drops, you're throwing the under route. If he is flowing up hard to the tight end, you're going deep ball. Like it's going to not look as simplistic as it is because of all the different sets, like this kind of the air raid scheme, but there's going to be some simplicity to it, which will help out a young quarterback. And hey, if he gets it figured out, you can add a little more complexity to it, but it's not really Dana's style. Receivers run a couple of routes. You run a couple of different plays. It's just going to look more complex than it is because of the pre-snap eye candy he can give a defense.
Go be great at doing certain things, right? And if they stop you, they stop you, but good luck stopping it. And be so talented. And the other thing that you feel good about here with this offense is some of the options. Not only the focus on being great and then applying that to whatever the weakness is defensively, but also you've got some guys. You went out shopping. You went out shopping this offseason, and you got a receiver room that have plenty of options. You feel good about what Emmett does. And I guess the question mark here is we got a little bit of a glimpse with the open practice on what the availability is, at least with some of the offensive line when you saw the first 5 out there, and that's not what the fall depth chart will necessarily say, but you have some guys that can go win, and that's also important. That's we talk about these one-score games over the years, and not to beat a dead horse. If you know what Iowa was going to do, to kind of kickstart their offense, despite going 0 for 10 on third downs. They got it to their stud back. You know what Iowa was going to do? They were going to find their tight end on a stick route to set up field goal range. You know what Oklahoma was going to do? They were going to find, earmuffs, Keith Jackson.
Should have made that tackle in 1986.
Their third
I live with that every day, bro.
Passing attempt. So Nebraska needs some fellas. I think they have some fellas to turn to, and you feel good about the trigger man here in Dillon going into the second year.
I just wish I'd made that tackle on Keith Jackson in 1986.
What would have happened? 15-yard penalty, yes, but would you have been banned, or would there be a statue?
I think my degree would have been from SEC Milford. And then beyond that, who knows what would have happened. But I'd be like that dude in, what was it, the Stanford TCU Rose Bowl in 1935 or something. I don't know what year it was when the guy came off the bench to make the tackle. But yeah, Keith Jackson caught that ball right in front of me on that drive in 86.
Well, this is Keith Jackson we're talking about here. It's not a
sportscaster. I didn't try to tackle the sportscaster.
I'm saying that's a tough tackle to make still. Like, even if he doesn't see it coming from the fan on the sideline, like, it'd be pretty embarrassing if you try to tackle him and you get trucked and he still ends up in the end zone. Like.
or Keith just handing out piggyback rides from the 50.
I could have been a disruptor, you know?
Uh-huh. Well, in all fairness to poor Broderick did get pushed off on.
Yeah. Now we're bringing up bad memories.
No, I know it's Sunday. It's Sunday. So some spring football thoughts there.
Is it?
Go ahead.
Here's something about spring football that I'm hoping this is not the case. But they brought up Carter Nelson, and trying to get him in a physical stature to play in the Big Ten. I'm guessing the level of play is a little different than it was in Ainsworth. I'm hoping that we're not getting into a discussion where it's going to be a little bit like we had with Thomas Fedoni, where there's an injury here, and then there was the stinger here, and then there's the postseason surgery and all the promise in the world and all the athleticism. And this is not a knock on the guy, but we've talked more about Carter Nelson's injuries in getting ready to play football at Nebraska than what he's been able to do at Nebraska. And that's one thing that just you hear about who's out, and we talk about the offensive linemen that are out, and we know how Carter Nelson was used last year. Is he going to be a tight end? Is he going to be a wide receiver? Is he going to be an H-back type player? Well, it sounds like he's more situated into the tight end room now. Well, to be a tight end in the Big Ten, you got to put a little more meat on that frame. But there's probably been 2 injuries already that have him held out of action. And I hope that, his progress is not sidetracked because he's just not built in a way to play in the Big Ten as soon as they want him to play.
Yeah, I think he'll be one. If he's following the progress, he should be able to give it at least a go once they get to camp, just to see where they're at. I mean, I think the timing of the surgery had a reason. So if you're looking at the rehab, I mean, their opinion on him has not changed. Everybody knew that it was going to be an adjustment. I think their usage of him last year was perfect. I think they got him on the field. They got to see what he could do. But he has a ways to go physically now, and he's kind of he can be a freak. So I'm not worried yet about him. What I am worried about is that tight end room. They are an injury away from and you already have a tight end that you brought in from LSU that got hurt right away, so he's rehabbing. You have a brand new guy that's learning tight end, and you want to play in an offense that's probably going to have a lot of 12 personnel. It really puts it on Luke Lindenmeyer to have a big season. And thankfully for Nebraska, Lindenmeyer got a lot of snaps last year, and he got snaps where he just wasn't a blocking tight end. I mean, everyone will remember the play against Illinois, but there were also times where they wanted to utilize him in the passing game. So I think that whole tight end room, Lindenmeyer and Harburg complementing each other, but which role do they fill? And also something we talked about yesterday is how many tight ends do they keep on this roster? Because again, I think they love that 12 personnel. And so, because you do run 12 personnel, does that mean which is, one running back, 2 tight ends? Are you going to carry, if you can get there, 5, 6 tight ends instead of maybe 4?
Think about your normal NFL roster where you have 3 and then a 4th guy that's probably not practice squad, but special teams. I mean, they're all double dipping. I think of the Mark Andrews of the world. Can you get by? I mean, that's going to be fascinating. Where how many DBs are you carrying? You got 27 to choose from. How many wideouts? You need a boatload of defensive linemen and offensive linemen. You just do, because you got your 2 deep and then your developmental side of things. So do you go 4? Do you have 5? I mean,
see, I think at the front end that they're in good shape. I love Harburg at that spot. I don't discount that. I think Lindenmeyer has proven himself over the last couple of years as he has developed into that into a position to have significant playing time. My only concern with Carter Nelson is the process of getting him into where he is physically able to play, the number of games and snaps that's going to be required of him, and to go along with that, what is the depth in that room? So is he being forced along? Is he going to be fully healthy when the season rolls around? And then behind him, who are the others? Because I would see him more in the line. Harburg and Lindenmeyer give him 2 different looks, right? So Carter Nelson is much more in line with what the athleticism of Heinrich Harburg. But then behind him, and then Satterfield, now focusing all of his attention there as the highest paid tight end coach in the country, focusing all of his attention on that spot. Who else does he have? What depth does Nebraska have behind those guys? So that goes to the question you pose: how many people do they keep? And it's been the least talked about position of spring so far, other than Harburg's move.
Well, and I think because we immediately think, and going back to the bowl game, I loved how they used Harburg. They kind of moved him around. He was an H-back. The next step will be comfortable running routes, and that's just teaching him how to play tight end, because physically I have no concerns that he'll be able to get in there. But will he be a main blocker, or will he be a guy that, kind of touches alignment and then is out into the pattern, and they leave the dirty stuff to Lindenmeyer? I mean, they're going to need Harburg to put his hand in the dirt, and that'll come with development and more reps and everything. But they only have, 8 guys in the tight end room. And I mean, one is the only one that's established is Lindenmeyer. Everybody else is either stuck their toe in playing tight end, or they haven't been on the field yet. This is a big, this is a big spring. As I look at, Sam Sledge is a perfect example. Mm-hmm. Guys that have been in the program now 3 years, this is the year to break through. I'm also very curious about the guys that are now in year number 2. They're going through their second spring ball. And one of those guys at tight end is a Papillion La Vista tight end, like Lindenmeyer and Eric Ingerson, who, when he was in high school, I thought he was a better defensive end, but they really like him at tight end. So he's a guy to watch. But they have to – it's almost like Harburg has to take the jump, and then you go, okay, I feel really good about this room.
Walter chimes in here on the stream saying Mark Whipple was right about Heinrich Harburg.
So if you're scoring at home 24 minutes into the show, we have a Whipple reference.
It's a position that has not been talked about much at all. And the numbers, bear that out. And how many guys are they gonna keep, and who's gonna be healthy, and all of that. So, Schmidt, you're waving. Is somebody waiting?
Well, yeah, we're gonna walk and talk here. Hold on a minute. There we go.
Whoa,
there he is, head man with Husker Wrestling, joining the Average Joe Sports Show. It is Mark Manning. Coach, how are you?
Hey, doing well, Chris. Thanks for having us on.
Well, thank you. Of course, Bill Doleman, Gary Sharp, Elijah Herbel, our Sunday Live here on the Average Joe Sports Show. And Coach, we're big fans, obviously, and excited to talk with you again, man. How's it been? It's been a week, I know, but you're still smiling, I see.
Well, yeah, barely. That's because I just went to church.
So did I.
I'll tell
Meanwhile,
you,
three other guys are wearing ball caps, but go ahead.
little cold for baseball, but they're getting it done, right? They
Yeah.
gotta go get it done today.
Yeah.
Hey, how do you
Coach-
go, Coach? How do you go from, and I mean, there's very few places in the country that when the show is going on and Nebraska's wrestling and there's a great crowd in there, then the Devaney Center. And how do you go? Explain this to people, because I had this discussion last week when they were looking at your dual season to your championship season. Do they always equate to each other, or is your roster built differently where you're going to be good in dual because you have depth, but then you have just some absolute studs that are going to be good when you get to the championships?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really about being consistent. Dual meets are funny because you can lose a match that you were favored in, or say, for instance, when we lost to Iowa, Ridge lost, to Parco, really good kid, multiple All-American. And, we win that match, we win the duel, and then people think we climbed the mountain, and we lost that match. We won a couple matches. We probably pulled upsets in. And so the dual meets are real fickle, but really in tournament, you really see what your team's about, because it's the ability to come back and get third, or ability to come back and get fifth, or for nationals, coming back through consolations and getting on the podium. For example, Jacob Van D and Cam McDaniel, both All-American this year. They both were 2 of 4 guys out of 330 guys that lost first round, won 4 straight matches. That shows a lot of resolve, and got on the podium. So dual meets, it shows the strength of your team for sure. But it's the tournament action is everything, and it's in wrestling I was on a board 10 years ago that really we're in favor of making the NCAA tournament more of a dual meet championship. And so there used to be that, and it's actually coming back this year. It's going to be down in Tulsa starting next year, and they got a lot of money behind it, and they're going to it's called the national duels. And Chad Richardson, the pay.com guy, is funding Oklahoma State wrestling now, basically, and he's putting money up. There's going to be prize money. And so it's really a great concept, because for us, Tom Ryan, the Ohio State coach, and I were really in favor of it. We're really trying to push it, because fan bases like ours are going to follow teams more than just individuals. And I get the individual being an individual national champion. I can't tell you all the intricacies of the, how points are scored in the back side of the NCAA tournament. I don't even want to know, because it just makes me, it just gets me too anxious. And, every match is, wow, it's worth 3.5 points, 4.5 points. It's unnerving. And it's more about just getting our guys ready to go and getting them out there to do their best and be warriors. So it's that's a amazing question, and something that we need to really think about as a sport. Yeah, by the time wrestling figures it out, I'll be gone.
Mark, when did you know during the course of this last NCAA championships that your team had some momentum, that this was not going to be 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th place finish, and that wrestling is such an individual sport, but there's great accountability amongst the team members that one, iron sharpens iron. And if one guy's winning, the other guy steps up. So at what stage in that weekend did you think, you know what, we got something special that's brewing here?
Yeah, I knew toward the end of the season, I knew after the Iowa match that our guys were going to really respond. You look at the latter part of our year, we really put a lot of points on the board in dual meets, 30-something to 8 or 6, or we scored a lot of points. And then going in the Big Ten, the same thing. We took second to Penn State. We put a lot of points on the board. And actually, the very last day, Jacob Van D was in concussion protocol, and Christopher Mento rolled his ankle bad and couldn't wrestle. So I knew coming out of Big Tens, if we get those two guys healthy, that we were going to be a force. I really believed in our guys, and just the standard of this team. They didn't want to just make it to the NCAA tournament. They wanted to get on that podium, and that testimony of just the courage and the heart these kids have, and how they're wrestling for each other. And we're built a different way. Yeah, we develop our guys. We don't buy guys, and so it's a wild. Wrestling is turning into what football and basketball is right now.
Well, as you talk about the changing sport of sorts, Coach, take me back a little bit to when Nebraska joined the Big Ten. You talk about the Big Ten championships. How did just going from the Big 12 to the Big 10 affect the Husker Wrestling program and what it's become today?
You know what? Another amazing question. Well, when we were in the Big 12, Cale Sanderson was at Iowa State. Yeah. And so, Iowa State, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Oklahoma State, they were all good. So we only had 5 teams, but it was a bloodbath when you went to the Big 12 tournament, and probably stronger, even though the Big 10 had more teams. And, really when we entered the Big 10, it was really, Penn State wasn't the powerhouse. It was more Minnesota was the powerhouse, Minnesota and Iowa. And so it just, it's a brutal league because everyone's good and you can't really take a night off, kind of like in all sports. And so, it prepares you for the NCAA tournament. And we have a couple of transfers that we're recruiting right now, and that's what they realize coming from a lesser conference. It's harder to win a national title. Just look at the numbers in the Big Ten, what the results are. It really speaks for itself, and it prepares you to win on the biggest stage.
So you brought it up, and people that are around the sport know there's a lot of money in wrestling, and there's a lot of people that want individual programs to do well. And you've talked about it and where Nebraska is positioned. But when I tell you this stat, Mark, I mean, this is your chance to brag. I'm pretty sure that since 2019, Nebraska has the second most homegrown guys that have been All-Americans. I mean, I know we have mercenaries and we get guys for 1 or 2 years, and there's some really big names that are in the wrestling portal now. But when you're out on the road and selling, and the way you're recruiting, and now you're starting to stack really good recruiting classes, that stat, what does that do for your guys that are on campus and your guys that you want to come here to begin and maybe have a 4-year journey?
Yeah, I mean, it just hopefully that matches up with their values, their value system. I'll give you an example. My boys were reading coming home from church today, just an hour ago. A young man was scheduled for a visit here in a couple of weeks, and he's going to Iowa for big money, him and his buddy, and it's insanity. It's crazy, the amount of money. So it's really is it about development and getting you on the podium, or is it about money? Mm-hmm. Is about development? If it's about development, you'd come here. But it turns out, money talks, and I had another recruit text me this morning during church, said, I saw it coming, man. There's just no loyalty. And that's why that kid will fit in our program. Hopefully he commits to us. But it's a wild, wild west right now. And the NCAA needs to step up and show some leadership. Reminds me of 3 or 4 ADs ago that we had bad leadership. That's what the NCAA reminds me right now. Come on, got to put up some guardrails. I saw this young lady from LSU or whatever. She's been to 3 Elite Eights.
Yeah.
20 years from now, I'd like to ask that young lady, where are you going to take your kids? You're going to take them to TCU? You're going to take them to Louisville? You're going to take them to LSU? Where'd mom go play? What are you about as a person? It really questions these young men where their values are. I don't know, man. That's we have a great standard, and hopefully we don't lose any of our guys, but it is frightful times.
Mark Manning with us here on the Average Joe Sports Show, Sunday Live. Huskers, an incredible season, and Coach Manning, you just touched on the challenges. I'm interested, at what point in your career you kind of honed in on your philosophy on development, where you said, all right, I don't know where things are going to go, but we do know that things are the way they are now. The early seeds kind of planted to fast forward to now, to be able to navigate these challenging waters. Yeah,
it's it really is, across all sports. I think why do we have college athletics? It's like, right now, people are investing in wrestling, and obviously they're investing in basketball and football, and everyone knows that. But why do we have sports if it's not for helping people grow and develop into, you look at Dabo Sweeney. There's not going to be a Dabo Sweeney anymore. Walk on at Alabama, Paul Bear Bryant gives him the opportunity, and he turns into an amazing coach. Well, if it's just about money, then just only have football and basketball. But if it's about Olympic sports and realizing what everyone's dream is about, to be a world Olympic champion or whatever their goal is, but most of all, giving them the opportunity. And man, we can have a 3-hour show here now. Yeah, I'm ranting on, but
you're fine.
But there's a great question about there is a lot of money, and we're gonna have a get together with some of our donors here coming up, and it's very important times, because we want to retain the guys that do it on the mat for us. And that's really our philosophy. A couple of years ago, when this NIL thing started, is I told my guys, hey, you win a Big Ten title, you win a national title, you're an All-American. We're going to reward the guys that do it and earn it. And that's what's been working for us. And hopefully, that number is probably going to go up than what we started on. A guy like Brock Hardy, he's a Big Ten champion, 3-time All-American, got 1 year left. He could go on the market for Ridge Levitt could have gone on the market for $400,000 to $500,000 last year. And I'll tell you this, he didn't stay at Nebraska for that. I bought him a steak dinner once a week and 2 Diet Cokes, and he was good. No.
Hey, T-bone or filet, Coach?
1.5 inches thick. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Hey, we've all gotten the chance to know you throughout your long career at Nebraska, also away from the wrestling room. So we know that you not only are a father at home with, by the way, pretty good football player, but you're also a father to the wrestlers that come through. And I got to tell you personally, It was so cool to see the smile on your face last weekend in Philadelphia. You were a proud papa, but also as somebody who has to run and hold guys accountable and get them better, you also have to have a shoulder they can lean on. And being from Omaha and seeing him at Millard South as a football player and a wrestler, I got to know Antrell Taylor. I didn't know his dad, Daryl, but his brother, Adderall, would come to all of his games, and everybody knew who he was. Well, as the story has kind of been told now that Antrell won a national championship, he lost both his father and then his brother, who stepped in to be his father, to gun violence. What was that like as you have to walk Antrell through the emotions and be there for him to get to the finish line this past year where he can say, I'm a national champion?
Yeah, man. Emotion just comes over me when you mentioned Andrell, and I got to meet him when I was recruiting Antrell, and like you mentioned, he was always there for Antrell at everything. He was an inspiration to Antrell, and I think just knowing that life is precious, and just making the most of your opportunity. And Antrell really realized that. He's really growing as a person. Iowa, Oklahoma State probably would have been recruiting him 2 years ago if they knew that what he was going to turn out to be. And we just knew that kid's heart. We knew his work ethic. His mom, Tammy, does an amazing job with him. Raising him and raising him with the right values, and he just fits our program so well. And what a journey this kid's been on, going to Andrell's funeral a couple years ago, it's just wild. It's wild to see where he came from and how he's navigated through such some troubled times most people never go through or experience. And man, now he's on top of the world.
Coach, you talked about the donors and all that stuff, but having been around the Nebraska wrestling program almost 30 some years ago and being able to see the relationship that your fans have had with the program over the years. And I remember going to gatherings out in Havelock and Misty's Isles, and there'd be, 20, 30, 40 people there, and they were all supportive. And it was just this devoted group of fans that have been so passionate about Nebraska wrestling for, since Bob Fears, and through Tim and through your relationship with them for the past 25 years. What did it mean for you to bring that trophy back to show all those folks who were greeting the team at the Devaney Center? And I'm sure you've had plenty of pops with them over the past week or so and a few extra steak dinners, but to give back to those fans who've been so loyal and to your program for so long.
Yeah. I mean, it means the world, just so many people reached out, and it is very rewarding. It's very rewarding for all the people that come to our matches. I've sensed this been coming for a few years, and our crowds have been getting bigger and bigger. And now we need to pack the Devaney all the time. And maybe next year we need to wrestle Iowa at Pinnacle Bank Arena. And the Bumblebees are going to come over like a banshee. Those guys are going to come over, and we need to make it an event. And I think we got an AD in Troy Dannon who knows. He realizes that, and he wants to take us another level, and that's what we need. People to understand how to move the sport, and how to really recognize that our fan base can be a tremendous asset to us.
Hey, just look at the Penn State duel, Coach. I mean, and I know it was Penn State, but man, that place was packed and it was loud and people were into it. I'm with you. I'm with you on because I remember watching it at the Coliseum, which was such a great venue for wrestling because everybody was right on top of the mats. And you've been able to turn the Devaney Center the way you set it up into a great place that is not only a showcase for the sport, but your program. And then if I'm any recruit and I'm watching that display on a Friday night at the Vantage Center and there's 6,000+ people in there, I'm like, where do I sign up?
Yeah, that's right. And we got a big, we're wrestling on a stage, and it makes it for, the ambiance of of all that is it's big time environment. And that's what we really try to sell. And I mean, it's really great. Our facility, our event staff does an amazing job. They put in a lot of work, and I'm so thankful for all those people. Our janitor all the time, he loves on our guys. He takes care of our room, and man, we have a lot of people behind the scenes that do a lot of work for us, and we're grateful for those guys, and definitely for the event staff and the people that really help make us look good,
Mark Manning with us here on the Average Joe Sports Show. Coach, we'll let you get on with your Sunday. I do want to say thanks.
He said he was going to do a 3-hour show.
Well, that's fine.
We're going to talk about NCAA politics and NIL and all of that. Schmidt.
Oh no! Look, technical difficulties.
Hey, can we ask one quick question? On last Saturday night in Philadelphia, it's not only a great showcase for Nebraska wrestling and the success you had and guys that were wrestling on Saturday night, but you had a packed building again for the NCAA championships. You had the president there. And then in the history of wrestling, people can go, oh, hey, when Gable got beat. I think one of the more stunning moments I've ever seen, Coach, is when Spencer Lee got pinned by Ramos from Purdue. But now you see the heavyweight match on Saturday night when Stevenson got beat by Hendrickson. What was that vibe like in the building last Saturday night?
Yeah.
It was electric when Hendrickson got in on him, and it was a short time left. And then, he showed tremendous effort to finish that shot on Gable Stevenson. Gable Stevenson has some big old strong hips, man. And, I won't use my phrase, but he has some big, strong hips, and everyone gets the point. But when Wyatt put forth that effort, and I just think it's one of those moments in sports where people they freeze, and I think Gable kind of couldn't believe it was happening. It was just a surreal moment, and then he had a little bit of time to get out, and he couldn't get out, and people were just, the crowd was just so loud. It was deafening, and really cool moment. And, happy for that guy. And I love Gable Stevenson, but I think he shocked the world, obviously. And, Trump was there to witness it.
My last thought on that, what Hendrickson did was amazing for the casual and maybe even the non-wrestling fan to get caught up in the greatness of the sport. But what I think is really awesome is what you and your team did not get lost in the Hendrickson highlight and headline. It has been what Wyatt Hendrickson did, but it has also been right alongside there what Nebraska did. It didn't get lost, especially in the wrestling community, what you have meant to your program, what your athletes have meant to you, and vice versa, but what Nebraska wrestling is doing right now. And I think that's great. It would be easy for the Hendrickson moment to outshine everything, but Nebraska wrestling was still right there. And that's going to carry over for a long time to come. And Mark, we really appreciate you coming on and being above average with us today. I'm just wondering when Mark's going to get a new mugshot for the Husker Media Guide, because look, we're all getting a little up there, bro. And I've seen that picture of you, and you don't look anything like that anymore.
I love the old picture.
It's funny, guys. I'm pretty honest guy. I come home and my boys, I got a sophomore and junior in high school, and they're like, Dad, I got to update your Twitter handle, man, Dad. And they put a picture of me and Christopher Mento and the team. And all of a sudden, I got 25 years older on that picture. And I said, guys, I don't care about any of that stuff, but they do, they're in that generation.
You're the best.
Mark Manning with us here, Average.
Appreciate you guys.
Coach, thank you
Thanks,
for the
Coach.
time. continued success and best to you. Thanks so much.
You bet, Schmitty. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys to do a great job. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. There he
Thanks,
is.
Coach.
Coach Mark Manning with us here. Sunday Live, Average Joe Sports Show. Like and subscribe. YouTube, Average Joe Sports Show, where you search. You can find us on Twitter, AJ Sports Radio. Of course, catch Gary Monday through Friday with Gary and Matt from 6 to 10 on The Zone. Catch us with the Average Joe Sports Show, Average Joe Sports Show Network, 4 to 6, flagship out of KFOR, Bill Doleman, Elijah Herbel, Gary Sharp, Chris Schmidt. That was fun, man. He's the best, giving us some time after church. And
hey, come on, here, can you see that?
I know.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
Some of us like our older pictures. A little leaner, a little younger. Just keep playing it forward.
Hey, so, it's kind of in this day and age where, Nebraska's gone through a lot of football coaches post Osborne, Solich, and they've gone through basketball coaches post Danny Nee. You have John Cook, who just went through 25 years, Mark Manning, 25 years, Rhonda Revelle, longer, John Walker, longer. Coach Cook and Coach Manning have worked for 7 athletic directors.
Oh, cow.
Yeah, they've lasted. I did an event with Coach Cook the other night, and he said, 7 athletic directors. But it just shows you, Coach made a comment about the alignment from the top down, which really is important to a head coach, and in his program helps immensely. So I'm glad that he's got an athletic director that comes from Iowa, where how big wrestling is. And it's a sport that I think you mentioned it, Bill, and we talked about it last Sunday. Penn State dominated again. Not as big as they did last year, but they're an absolute beast. And they've won 12 of the last 14 national championships, but they were not the story. Nebraska from the team's standpoint was the story, and then Hendrickson from an individual standpoint was the story. That says a lot about this season, the way to end it up for Mark Manning. I hope people enjoyed that, man. He's a real one. He's one of the most likable coaches that you could go out and just drink beer with, and you'd never know that he was a coach at Nebraska or whatever. Like, oh no, I don't want to. You're a coach.
When it speaks to who he is as a coach. Whenever you have the former wrestlers that he is coach. I mean, James Green's back, assistant coach with the Husker Wrestling team. You got Jordan Burroughs. I know he's not as actively involved, but he's in the broadcast booth on Saturday night, and you can tell he's still got a lot of love in his heart for Coach Manning. I mean, the guys that he has developed coming back and lending their support to the program, I think kind of says it all for the type of coach that Mark Manning is and what he does for his wrestlers.
What's really cool too is his commitment to development. And you see it. It's that teacher mentality, that coach teacher combination, where he's going to get you right on the academic path. He's going to get you right as a 18-year-old trying to grow up and be an adult that contributes, and he's going to get you right with your craft, the sport you love, and you put your body and soul into as a wrestler. That commitment. It's they're all 3 are not easy paths, right? And he continues to knock it out of the park. And what's so cool about him is just how personable he was. Like, I know we all know Coach Manning, but going back years, just a little bit of my relationship with him. I mean, Junior and Coach Manning's oldest boy played soccer together, and his quarterback's a year younger than Carson, but they played soccer, and dude was just a normal dad cheering for his kid on the sideline as we're both kind of side-eyeing each other saying, yeah, this is sweet. It's spring in Nebraska and we're out here freezing our off, watching soccer, but he's just big time. And you hear him, when you do hear him, he represents that well.
God, and you understand how nonstop that job is. How many text messages did he get in church about recruiting today?
A lot.
3 or 4 guys, and one guy saying, "Hey, I'm getting the bag across the river, and so I'm not coming, coach." And which is also, we didn't get a chance to bring it up, but as Penn State has become the dominant, maybe the dominant athletic program in the country in all sports right now because of Cale Sanderson, and there's no sign of it slowing down anytime soon. Iowa is so passionate about wrestling that they have been focusing on how are they going to get back to where they are on an even playing field and competing with Penn State for national and Big Ten and national championships. By the way, Nebraska just passed you. And that strikes at the heart and core of Hawkeye fans. Yeah, they may have gotten a couple of last-second field goals to beat Nebraska in football, but it is painful over there to think that Nebraska wrestling not only passed you at the Big Tens, but passed you at the NCAA championships. And that cuts deep to those guys right now that, he was talking about how Minnesota was the dominant program in the Big Ten for a long time, along with Iowa. Iowa's never been not dominant, but Nebraska's past Iowa for the time being, and whatever they're going to start $400,000 for wrestling, which goes to the bigger picture of NIL and how that $20.5 million in revenue share is going to be divided and where those pieces of the pie are going to go for whatever universities, whatever sports the universities want to focus on. Nebraska, it's volleyball. It's basketball, probably women's basketball. Wrestling's got to be in that conversation, and especially with Troy Dannon. And as you said, Gary, Dannon being an Iowa native, he knows how important the sport is. Hey, when Nebraska had some travel issues coming back from Philadelphia, and it looked like it was going to be a really long day and really inconvenient after finishing second, he chartered a plane for him to come back home. That's how much Troy Dannon values, Nebraska wrestling and what Nebraska wrestling did for the program, but also for the university a couple of weeks ago. It was monumental what they did. And Mark Manning deserves every accolade and pat on the back that he's gotten.
Well, he touched on in his presser this week, Nebraska's run where you were always in contention. You were top 10 good, and then you made that jump to championship level. And he talked about, don't sneeze at, the 10-win seasons or the 9-win seasons. I'm paraphrasing, but, and he's been chopping wood at that level of excellence for such a long time. And then to your point, Elijah, with the jump into the Big Ten, dear Lord, it's just murderer's row. And they have met that competition. They've accepted it, and then they've conquered it. And aside from the Penn States of the world, they are continuing to roll. That's a great story. The hard work and just being the dedicated coach you are to your craft, and then also the culture of your program really shows through.
Yeah, and the success leads back into itself with Husker wrestling. What Husker fans love, they love a winner. By going and building a consistent winner in the Big Ten, Coach Manning's calling for, packing the Bob next year, getting a match against Iowa at PBA. If you're out there winning, Husker fans will show up. I mean, you just see the attention that Husker wrestling got with the NCAA championships. They wouldn't have got that same type of attention 15 years ago.
They'll be trendy.
How he does it also resonates.
Well, I think another thing, and we've all interviewed him many times. He's also an ambassador for the sport to try and grow the sport. So think bigger. And, he refers to the Iowa fans as the Bumblebees. And we know how passionate Iowa fans are about wrestling. I mean, look at, they pack Carver Hawkeye.
And
they travel.
That's the only place, Gary, I've ever been where you show up. There's a bar in Iowa City. They got singlets all over the wall from the different Iowa All-Americans.
And they have a hell of a happy hour too.
Hey, it's real, and they've had success, and so their duels are on radio, and they know the sport. Sometimes they're a little over the top. The one thing about Pinnacle Bank Arena, and I'm glad that Coach Manning thinks bigger, because they need more in that sport to not just think about their own program, but to think how we grow the sport nationally, is you go to PBA, you put out a challenge to the Nebraska fans, do not let the Bumblebees come in and buy up all the seats. Nebraska has a good hardcore group of fans that are going to be with you every single time, but they're not 15,000. So that would be the challenge, but it would be a great showcase for the sport. I mean, there's no reason why Nebraska and Iowa can't be good at wrestling. And I'm not just good, but near the top at wrestling every single year. They're kind of recruiting the same the same group, the same pool of wrestlers. We know Iowa's not afraid to come over on this side of the river. Nebraska's not afraid to go over there and recruit high school guys. The high school wrestling is getting better every single year in the state of Nebraska, with more opportunities to go out east in showcases, to go to Fargo and do well up there. So it would be great. It'd be great. It's great to have coaches that think big. You know, John Cook always has, you gotta dream. You gotta dream big. And Mark has always done that. And I appreciate that about him. And it would be great. A Sunday at the PBA where you put 15,000 in there to have Nebraska, Iowa wrestling.
Well, as you talk about the growing sport around here, not to mention there's the women's side of things as well.
Mm-hmm.
A sanctioned high school sport now in Nebraska as well. The girls' high school wrestling. We'll see if it ever comes up to the college level. But that's a big part of it as well. Is you got the women who are fantastic wrestlers in their own right, growing that side of the sport as well. I mean, it's a growing sport right now.
Well, it's trendy. Nebraska wrestling is trendy, and it's what happened in Philadelphia is kind of that moment that you grasp, the Jordy Ball transfer for Nebraska softball, and how are we going to put more seats at Doleman? Dylan Raiola, to a certain extent, that moment when he committed to Nebraska football and to Matt Rule, that got people excited again and leaning it into their seats. What Nebraska did in Philadelphia warrants, okay, now what do we do? How do we capitalize on this? And if you put them in PBA with all the pubs around, I'm sure there are a few Husker Wrestling fans that would probably find themselves in a tavern before they headed over to PBA and poured a couple there and enjoyed a great night of wrestling. And they'd put on a hell of a show. It wouldn't be like, well, let's just roll some mats out and see how many people show up. Yeah. They'd probably elevate the stage. They'd have the spotlight on it. You'd have the whole Husker Vision thing. I mean, it would be a show that they would put on. But this is the kind of moment that you capitalize on to get people into that sport and that program. And look, Mark's done it for 25 years to get to this point. I mean, I think we all hope he's there for another 25. But I hope that he is, in that seat for a long time to enjoy the fruits of a quarter century of labor. So many times Nebraska wrestling, when they get to the NCAA championships, and we've been to them, you go in knowing, they've had a really nice dual season. They've got double-digit wins, 11-4, 12-3, something like that. They fought hard against Iowa. Yeah, Penn State had the better, but they beat everybody else. And then they get to the NCAA championships, and you could just pretty much foregone conclusion it's going to be somewhere between 8 and 12. 8 and 12, yeah. 8 and 12. They had a breakthrough where they were fifth one year, about 4 or 5 years ago. So that was great. But something about this one seems different, that this team has gone to a plateau that it can build from for, top 5 finishes going on for quite a while.
Baseball thoughts real quick as we wind it down. The Sunday Live Average Joe Sports Show. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Catch us 7 days a week. Twitter as well. AJ Sports Radio. Gary Sharp, Bill Doleman, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. Baseball's first pitch moved back to 102 due to just being crappy outside. It's 46 and gray, but Nebraska got torched a little bit with the long ball yesterday. Response by Oregon State, the rubber match. Folks still smiling about what Friday was, where you win 7-3. You had some really nice performances. Can you empty the tank today in beaver-like conditions? I mean, it's
but you walked a nice little fine line there.
Yeah.
Yes. Elijah can answer this. Elijah, who's pitching for Oregon State today? It's their ace pitches on Sundays, correct?
Yeah. What's his name? I should know that.
Yes, you should. The rest of us are going to take a break on that one, but go ahead.
Put me on the spot. I knew this on Friday and I can't remember his name. But yeah, no, they pitched their number one guy. Pulling up the roster here.
I mean, they got a staff that's got a 2.82 ERA as a woebegone program that just goes and plays anybody that'll pay them money or will come to Corvallis. By the way, we should and they've won national. They're a national championship program. Oregon State baseball, there's some dudes. I mean, it seems like every single year they've got a first-round draft pick on their roster.
And they've been great on the mound.
Oh. Watching the game back on Friday, their demeanor was like, I can't believe we're losing to these guys.
Yeah, and they
They-
showed it
they-
yesterday.
They were the body language for Oregon State on Friday night. As I watched back, they were agitated. They could not believe what was happening to them, and you just had a sense when I looked at the box score last night. You got the sense that they were on a mission yesterday. They had 16 runs, 8 home runs. They hardly left. I don't know what they leave on base. Just a couple of men left on base. I mean, they picked up people on. What was it? Turley had 3 home runs yesterday. They played with purpose yesterday, and I would imagine that carries over, unfortunately, to today.
Yeah, and Justice mentions Arquette, the pitcher today, Schmidt, lefty, absolutely nasty. 1.6 ERA on the year. He has a walks and hits to innings pitched at a .83, not to mention a 38-10 strikeout to walk ratio.
So he's due for a bad game.
Yeah, in bad weather.
You could say that. Opponents batting 158 against him on the season.
I'm glad that, like, we don't get to see great non-conference teams come into Lincoln. I'm glad that they put this together. Damn, they're impressive. It would not surprise me to see that Oregon State team back in Nebraska in June.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the death taxes at Oregon State taking over Omaha. That's how it happens in June. You know it as well as anybody, Sharpie, with your CWS coverage. And you get a wave at Oregon State fans, man. I mean, they're just there. It's what a job Coach Casey did to start the program, and they have followed suit and not fallen off or dropped off. They're still pretty elite.
And, Bill Moose wanted to hire Pat Casey.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a pause there with Coach Casey, and he's like, Will's your guy. So,
well, then someone stepped up and said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this Will Bolt guy?" Yesterday was a letdown because Friday night was like, okay, that's what it's supposed to look like. And then yesterday it was kind of like, okay, that's what it has looked like, where you can't stack good performances. But I would take winning a series. I mean, if they can find a win a series. I mean, we're not talking about making huge jumps in the RPI, even though it would look really, really good on the RPI. They just need to win series because I don't know if you guys have looked at the Big Ten standings. I mean, there is at the top, Iowa is playing really, really well. Ohio State, who was 17th in the league going into the week with Nebraska 16th, they just won a series against Oregon at home, and Oregon's a top 10 team. So it's time, man. It's April 1. It's coming. They've got Creighton and Omaha back-to-back. Then they get into a regular rotation of the Big Ten. It's time to stop messing around. I mean, they need to start consistently stacking performances, and we'll see if they bounce back today. But man, those numbers are scary if you're a team that struggles offensively.
Absolutely. Guys, have a great rest of your Sunday. Be back at you tomorrow at 4 on the Average Joe Sports Show. And don't forget to tell a friend about the show as we
Bill and Elijah, who's going to the Final Four today?
I got Auburn and Houston.
Nice out of bounds play.
Houston's going to be your national champion. Book it.
Whoa.
I know Duke was great yesterday. I love that Houston
Duke
team.
was great. Holy smokes, are they good?
Yeah, and I'm also Auburn Houston today.
I am pulling for Sparty, obviously, but Auburn responded when they got pushed. Florida's comeback when they looked dead in the water, and then Texas Tech not wearing any Depends was not good either. So, well, clearly they needed to.
A West Texas reference?
Clearly they needed to, but no, good basketball tonight, good ones last night, and yeah, Duke looks overwhelming, don't they? My gosh, they're
could be a great good Final Four. I don't think it's been a great tournament so far, but the Final Four could finally be a really, really high level of basketball, and some dramatic games. If it goes with Auburn and Houston, and you got Duke and who else is in Florida? Oh my gosh, with their comeback, that could be a great Final Four.
It's been about like 15 years since we've had all number 1 seeds in the Final Four.
Yeah, well, that's the way it's going to be from here on out, bro.
And thank you, Game Dog and Captain, for the Pete Gillen reference.
Biggest Duke.
Duke is Duke. Leave it to Beaver. Yeah.
Good
Pete
call.
Gillen once made Nebraska basketball fans cry back in 1991. So there you have it.
Yeah, I know.
Him and Tyrone Hill. All right, that'll
How in
do
the hell
it.
were they ever a 14 seed?
I don't know.
I'm going to go into a dark room and try and figure out that really good team that got a 3 seed. How were they a 14 in the tournament?
I don't know. I'll text Jeff Smith and he will not return that. Hey, well, about that 14 seed game. Take off, Schmidt.
Best memory of that day is LSU Duke played before at the Metrodome. That was the game before Nebraska hit the floor.
And
And
was that Shaq
and that great Duke team.
Shaq and Stanley Roberts.
Wow.
So
Yep. All right. We'll just have to shift our things to memories of the Crown.
all right.
So you guys, are we having an Average Joe Sports Show watch party tomorrow night?
We good question.
Sure.
Where are we meeting you at, Sharpie?
I got a balcony out here for us.
Wherever they serve Crown, we'll watch the Crown.
Well, some of us have a collection of Crown. I'll bring the refreshments.
6.5 point favorite. Take the over.
Yeah, that balcony, Sharpie, could come in handy if the Husker basketball team plays like the end of the regular season.
Good question. I brought this up on my show. And one more thing. Will tomorrow night be, because we will watch, because that's what we do, but the first time in a long time that you'll have no emotional attachment to the outcome of a game, win or lose, that Nebraska basketball is playing?
That's fair. If you're a Big Red basketball fan.
Well, that would screw my Crown bracket that I have filled out.
How many folks were you able to talk into joining?
Zero.
Zero? It's just you? I love it.
Now in your Crown bracket, does it have, like Apple is against BlackBerry? Or is it like Arizona State's against Nebraska?
Or which team represents which one? Nebraska's Apple.
It's peach. I don't know.
I have heard the BlackBerry Limited that Crown Royal has put out is pretty good if you are drinking at home today.
Well, the peach used to be like hard to get.
Mhm.
Now it's easy to get. The vanilla's been good. The aged is fine. Blackberry is very good. And then depending on if you know the bartender in Iowa City, the apple, Crown Apple, can be considered a well option and is much more affordable.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the kind of in-depth research people come to expect on the Average Joe Sports Show on a Sunday morning.
Sometimes, Schmitty, to get back to the start of the show, you just got to know a guy.
I know.
Elijah knows a lot of guys.
We didn't feel awkward at all bellying up to that bartender either. My Lord.
Yeah.
Good thing the bar was tall.
I will say, American whiskey better than Crown. Good old American whiskey.
And it's 25% cheaper.
Tariff joke on a Sunday morning.
Yes.
That'll do it.
Schmitty, you've checked all the boxes today.
I know. I am that play caller. I just go down and check a box instead of going with what's working. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate all of you in the stream. Like and subscribe. Average Joe Sports Show, YouTube, Twitter, AJ Sports Radio, Gary Sharp, Bill Doleman, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. Talk to you next time on the Average Joe Sports Show. Thanks.